And we are live. Good afternoon, Daniel. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Mirko. Thanks, I'm fine. How are you?
Not too bad. It's a Friday. It's a Friday afternoon, 12 minutes past 5, and we've, in a very ad hoc manner, have decided to quickly get together. Something's going on in China. Something happened today. We're rather sad. Daniel, what's going on?
Yeah, so Li Keqiang passed away, only 60 years old. It's very sudden and surprising news. And he was a prime minister for 10 years, and it's quite unusual for a Chinese government official to pass away at this age, especially because they have such a excellent health system and care. And I think the only other official who passed away from a heart attack was Hu Yaobang many years ago. So this is quite unusual that this happens like this. And he was in Shanghai, it seems, swimming, and they were not fast enough, because usually with a heart attack, if you're fast, you can save it. It's not so dangerous, but they were not fast enough. And yeah, for the last 10 years, he was a prime minister. Just early this year, he handed over to Li Keqiang. So I thought it's worth to talk a little bit about it, because he's a very interesting person. Even if the last few years he wasn't able to do a lot. But I think it's very worth to recapture. It's a symbol, I think, also of what is going on in China.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite sad that he had to go so young. You know, somebody who's really dedicated his entire life to the country and the party. I remember earlier today I saw some pictures of him being a student at Beida in '78. He's a trained economist. Some call him the professor. Really smart guy. And then, you know, you retire. Frankly, I mean, I don't think these guys really retire, but you know, he just, as you said, retired in March, and then you die, right? I mean, it is really quite shocking. And obviously, there are the guys on Twitter and some media reportings is going around. There's something fishy is going on. I don't think that's quite true. It just happens, you know. I mean, cardiac arrest and this kind of stuff. It just really does happen, and it goes fast, as you say. And they weren't quick enough. I think the hotel he lived in, Shanghai, he was like 27 minutes away from the nearest sort of government-sanctioned, high-quality hospital, and they just didn't make it.
That's right. And I mean, look at this picture. That is more or less the same time when we were studying in China, when he's in Beijing. And I think he's very interesting vita, you know, because not like many other government leaders like Xi Jinping, whose father was already in the party. They were kind of second generation or third generation born into communist leadership family. So he came out of quite poor background from Anhui province. And he made it, which is very difficult in China, to Beijing University and studied there. And he even did his PhD there in economics, what we can see on this picture. And he was a member of this famous Chinese Youth League, which was really established in order to promote more younger leaders, and also leaders who didn't have this kind of family background. And Hu Jintao was a member of that, and Li Keqiang was a member of that, and Wang Yang was a member of that, but probably he was the last member ever of anyone of this organization to come to a high leadership position. And in his vita, I think he was very young when he became a provincial governor of Henan province, only 43 years old. It's very unusual in China to be in charge of a province with 100 million population. And he had a lot of roots, I think his wife also from Henan province. And then he became the governor of the Liaoning province. And at that time, I had some visibility of him, because he was responsible also for the BMW joint venture in Liaoning province. And he oversaw some signings. This picture is much, much later. So when he was already a prime minister. And then he was, after his time in Liaoning, he was a vice premier together with Xi Jinping. And then there was this battle on who's going to be the number one, right? And then finally Xi Jinping won, and he became the prime minister in 2013. And I personally had this opportunity in 2018 when I was awarded this Friendship Award for foreigners in the Great Hall of People to meet him and shake hands and have some exchange and tell him a little bit about my startup story at that time from Byton. I had a quite strong impression personally from him because he held a short speech, very casual, and he was talking about entrepreneurs and the importance of entrepreneurs for driving the economy forward, and also the opening up of China and the importance of having globalization and having all these foreigners coming to China. So had quite strong impression of him. Yeah. So actually I have to say I liked him a lot. And it was quite impressive, I think. But also, I don't know how you see that, Mirko. I mean, in the first 5 years, he was still visible. And in the past, always the number 1 and 2 in China were quite close to each other. But after the first 5 years of Xi Jinping, he was clearly degraded significantly, and everything centered only about Xi Jinping. So some people say he was the most low-key prime minister of the history, of the modern history, because he wasn't able to make any big impact under Xi Jinping.
Yeah, he was pretty much sidelined, right? I mean, he said all the right things and people were sort of printing this, Bloomberg included, but it never really happened, what he sort of expressed there on the public stage. And it's really just sad, honestly speaking. I mean, if you compare it to characters like Zhu Rongji, right? Like wielding serious power. Even Wen Jiabao had more, I mean, to say Wen Jiabao had charisma, I mean, that's quite a stretch, right? But compared to him, especially the last 5 years, I mean, he became almost, I don't want to say meaningless, but so sidelined in such a terrible way that you could tell he's really the last one of the technocrats, right? And as you said, this origin story in the Tuanpai, the youth organization, was really about sort of this meritocracy, a very different strand compared to the princelings that really effectually won in 2008. And Hu Jintao had to pull back, and basically you could only promise him the second spot, right? And that's what he got. And it wasn't a great story, right?
Yeah. But imagine, Mirko, what would have happened if in 2012 this would have ended the other way around, him being the number 1 and Xi Jinping just being number 2. Imagine what different turn this would have taken.
I just said exactly the same this morning to Tina, my Chinese wife. I said we would look at yet another new president of China, right? I think we would have stuck to the routine of sort of a 10-year, 2-term rule, and everything would have been still in place. But the princelings as a group, as a power group, basically changed that. We're almost back to, some people think we're back to dynastic patterns. I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, I mean, and then I think in a few seconds we will look at the video, right? So he was firmly believing and supporting that China's opening up policy would go on forever. It's impossible to take a step back, right? But what we have seen happening over the last 3-4 years, is more shutting down, taking a step back from globalization, and being more focused on itself. So this really has happened.
But now that you mentioned this, let's take a quick look at that. It's one of the latest speeches he gave, and I think it's quite telling. There are subtitles as well.
无论国际风云如何变幻，中国都会坚定不移地扩大开放。长江黄河不会倒流。中国对外开放40多年了，发展了自己，造福了人民，也有利于世界。这是个机遇的大门。
So this is really someone who was so convinced that this is the right path for China. And some people even mentioned that this is a hidden criticism of Xi Jinping, right, in the last few years, because he said the Changjiang Yellow River can't flow upstream. But actually, the last few years, these rivers have started to flow upstream, and the things are going back.
I think we just shared this before the session, that when you listen to this now, it's almost, you almost feel like he's really talking about Xi Jinping. That's really what this speech is all about. And interestingly, if you remember, after he retired in March, there were a few instances where he showed up in some place. I think there were a few sort of public scenes, universities, and his old workplace, and footage showed up on Weibo. And immediately it got censored and deleted. And there was a scene where he said something like, 人在干，天在看. And basically the idea of, the people are laboring here, down here, doing the hard work, and somebody up there is watching it. And, it leaves us hoping that he's now up there and watching China to hopefully sort of go back to all the ideas, principles that he promulgated.
Yeah, I mean, after this battle between him and Xi Jinping, when Xi Jinping took over, of course, he completely distrusted him, right? So there were absolutely no way they could work together. So he was, I think, completely, all power was taken from him. He was just there. And I think the last 2 years, just a puppy, and couldn't really do something. Huh? And that's quite tough to see.
I think, sort of going full circle on what you mentioned earlier, the story with Hu Yaobang, and we all know what happened after he died. And that was a heart attack as well, as you mentioned. And so now, thinking back of the moment last year when Jiang Zemin died, you had these the white paper movement, what they called it, people on the streets demonstrating against all these COVID restrictions. And you see, these are always sensitive moments in Chinese history when a leader dies, right? And this came very sudden. I think CCTV and Xinhua, they didn't even have an obituary ready. They had to basically say obituary is going to follow. It's interesting that it really came as a big surprise, and now we'll have to see. It's going to be a sensitive few days, that's for sure, because lots of outpouring of positive emotions and feelings for this guy on social media right now in China.
I think so. And I was really a bit enraged when I just saw this, that in the CCTV evening news this evening, this wasn't even mentioned as the first topic, So they put the actual Politburo meeting first, and this was just a second point to report on this. That's incredible. There's such a awareness now of not getting this too much share of voice, because I'm sure a lot of people will feel quite emotional about this.
Yeah, it's terrible. Shame on them for doing that. This is not how you sort of honor one of the leaders of the country. And let's still hope, Daniel, that things will turn around for the better. Maybe this is a moment in time where people will think what the right path should be, and maybe leading to some internal discussions. This is really sort of hopeful thinking only, but that'll be my concluding words on this for today. Daniel, anything else from you?
No, I think so. He would have been one of the party elders who were the ones who were supposed to speak out their mind from time to time. So it's one person less. But let's hope that at some point of time we will come back on the path which he supported for more opening and more reform.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Li Keqiang. Thanks for joining the session, Daniel.
Yes. Thanks, Mirko.
Bye.
Bye.